Hey everybody, it's Audrey from Audrey Lynn Studios on the west side of Canada near Vancouver. So I'm back from my trip to the UK and the Netherlands, and I am just currently putting together a video about that, but it's just going to take a little bit. I have lots of photos and clips, and I just want to make it really concise for you, So, but I have a make-along for you, and you've been waiting for it for a while, so my apologies. But that's just life. We're going to be making the swirl chip and dip bowl, hand built. So this tutorial that's coming up after this will be my first textured one. So up until now I've been making these non-textured ones, but the next one will be the make along is textured ones. So and they did turn out good. I don't have any in the kiln yet, but on the end I'm going to try and find all my photos of all of the swirl bowls I've done so you can see the different glaze combos or whatever. So okay, so let's go. Okay, here I have some Plaisman 340S, and I'm going to put it through the slab roller. If you don't have a slab roller though, you can use a rolling pin and thickness sticks. You'll need quite a bit though of clay. So yeah, let's I end up cutting some off, but let's just do this. And how thick is that? Yeah. There we go. So I'm using 340S. I usually use 340, which has no speckle, or white stoneware. Although I am looking for a white stoneware, which I haven't investigated yet. Plaisman might have it. A white stoneware that has a little bit of grog in it, because this is, hand-built pieces, especially when they're a little bit larger like this. They seem to do better with a little bit of grog. So I am going to be going to just over a 1/4 inch. Okay, now right about here, because this is a round, a round kind of format that I need. And when you do this, it rolls long, right? So I usually pick it up and just give it a turn. Going. Oops, that didn't go in here. Hang on here. There we go. Okay, I have to go let the dog out. I don't know. Maybe you guys can tell me, but my dog, Duty, is very old now. He's 16. And he always wants to go in and out, in and out, in and out the house. And we have the type of house where if he goes out my garage door from here, he can go all the way around to the kitchen door and come in through the kitchen and in through the garage again. And so he does these rounds, And if you close one of those doors, he'll just sit there whining. But he'll just keep doing those rounds. So I don't, is that a pacing thing that old dogs do? Okay, now how far is this coming out? Because I know this will squish out the end probably. Yeah. Good. And I am not quite where I want to be yet, so I am going to get my needle tool and just cut a little bit off there. Oh, excuse me. There we go. I'm going to cut a little bit off here and a little bit off here because it's going to squish out the end. And I don't want that. There we go. Deal with that in a minute. Great. So now we are almost, yeah, that's about where I want to be. So it's not a 1/4 inch, it's just a little bit thicker. And I will put that through again just to make sure it is nice and flat and consistent. And here we go. Okay, there. Put this up. And I'll usually give it a turn. It fits better on my table, usually like that. And take that top one off. Great. Now, I will compress this. And I usually use just this rib. Not an expensive rib. I think I got this one off of Amazon. That's working really well for me, so that's what I use. So we're getting the texture off, or smoothing out the texture, but we're also compressing. So we're compressing the platelets and aligning them. Now, if this is a little bit soft, because this is right out of the bag, so it's relatively soft, but it's a groggy clay, so has some integrity, or more integrity out of the bag than white stoneware. But if it's too soft, then just let it sit for a little bit. And where's my long green one? This one here by Mud Tools, I'll sometimes use to just make sure it's clean. It's not, of course not. So it's going to give it a sponge off. There we go. Good. So now, how I usually flip my slabs is, just stick that there. I use a piece of broadcloth and I have them hanging back here. Okay, this is my broadcloth, cheap broadcloth. From the fabric store. Okay, this is my this is my pattern. Seriously, I just made a circle and I guessed and it worked out. So I'm not exactly sure how I'm going to get it on the website for you, other than maybe taking a picture of it straight on and then reducing the size. And I will try that for you. I will. Right now though, you know what I'm going to do? I've never done a textured one. Swirlable. So I'm going to try it. I'm going to try a textured swirlable. So that means that first thing I'm going to do is just score the shape. Okay. Then we're going to get the cornstarch. And we're going to cornstarch this circle. Okay. Good. So it's right there and right there. And I'm going to use 2 rollers. They're both by Sue Butler from 3D Commotion. Let me put this here. And I am going to kind of go half and half. Yeah. So first one will be this roller, and that's on her site. And I do put a little bit of cornstarch on there. And I'll go, yeah, half. So just make sure you're getting a good impression. There we go. Nice. And then I'm going to use this roller. And I'm going to cornstarch that. Did my brush fall down? Of course it did. Here we go. And I am going to go, I'm going to leave a little gap. I usually do that. Leave a little gap between the 2 patterns. Oops. Okay. And I just do that. I could actually, this is really nice and straight. I could just leave it like that. Sometimes if it's not looking straight for whatever the reason, I'll use like a roller like this and put in another pattern. But this actually looks pretty good. So I'm going to leave it. That's what I'm going to do. All right, so now the pattern. And I'm not worried about where that pattern is going to lie when I start swirling this thing up. I'm just not. I don't think it's going to matter. Okay, let's do it like that. So, look at that. It says March 29, 2024. That's when I came up with this. When I was with my sister. It says Carol and Aud. Okay, so I'm going to go straight up and down. All the way around this pattern. And I should make a better pattern. I keep saying it and I don't do it. So straight up and down. Stop there. There. And then I will start here and straight up and down cut that curve. Now make sure you're holding your pattern. There. Great. This I will wet in some water and put in a bag. This I will cover with plastic because there's so much here to use for other projects. Okay, now I'm going to use the pony ruler and I'm going to use this end and just taper this edge a bit. Okay, lift up this and taper that. You can use your finger for the end. And then lift up this and taper that. Good. This makes for a nicer look. Okay, now what I have is a bisque mold that actually my friend made, and I broke that and then I made a new one. If you want to know the whole truth, nothing but the truth. I have tried to find something like this for you online. I can't, like, even if it was a plastic one or a glass one. So I'm going to take a measurement, and the measurement is, I need my ruler. Across is 13.5 inches across, or 34 centimeters. And it sits about 2.5 inches high, or 6 centimeters. Okay, so if you can just find a shallow, large bowl. And I thought, oh, well, maybe I could make you one out of tar paper, you know, or a thicker plastic. Make a round, take a chunk out, and tape it together to make a bit of, you know, a bowl that way. But I didn't get to that yet. So we're just going to use this, and I hope that you can find something. And if I find something, I will let you know. So I'm going to give this a cornstarch. And cornstarch sometimes does that where it clumps up. You want to get rid of that because that will show in your clay. So I just with my hand, get rid of it. Okay. Now, I'm going to pick this up without tearing it here and just lay it in here and start bringing it around. Oh, for goodness sake. It is a little finicky. There's no two ways about it. Try and keep it flat-ish. Bring this around. This is your bowl part. Okay, so now what I'm aiming for is that this part here will come up a bit, and that this bowl part here will come up further like this, and then it'll be as big as it can be. Here we go. And you can have this where the point, let me move you a little bit closer here and a little bit down. You can have this where the point goes right to the bottom, or you can have it where it comes up to here, right? And then this will be the bottom of your bowl down there. And that's usually what I do. And, but this is kind of facing this way too much. So then I use my sponges, which I have a whole bunch that I use, to elevate it. Now, they are right here in my handy dandy organizational place. I have a couple of these carts that have these trays, and they are fab. I got them off Amazon too. So this is going to come up like this, which means I am going to need a sponge in there. And this bowl size, I think that's pretty good right there. Like that. So there's going to be a sponge in here. But I can tell you right now, I switch my sponges around all the time through this process, because like what I'm noticing is that down here, my bowl is coming up too much. So I'm going to give it a little tap to try and get it a little bit flatter on the bottom. And then put my sponge in where I think, now you can see it's like doing this. Well, that's just not going to be helpful to me, is it? There's just a lot of futzing around, that's for sure. Of changing this angle and changing that angle, putting another sponge in, like here, and you're playing with it as it's drying, okay? So great, it sets up here a little bit. But then once it's set up a little bit more, well, then I can change the position of my sponges. All right? Because I want this to be as a nice continuous swirl as possible, right? So, and right now, because of it being rather soft, it's kind of wanting to do this. So I'll keep doing this, pulling it into more of a circle, and as it's drying. So this is something you want to start at the beginning of the day so that you can put it aside and keep playing with it. All right, so it's going to look something like this when I'm done. Yeah, I think so. That's a big enough bowl, I think. I mean, you can move it around if you want, but I don't want to too much because right now it's just a little bit soft. So I think that that's a big enough bowl. And this is coming around in a nice swirl. And we're going to play with that later. This is a decent swirl at this point. And this has enough of a lip that whatever I put in here won't fall off. Okay? Did you get all that? I'm sorry, but you wanted the toot. Okay, I'll come back to it. Okay, so before it really sets up, we're going to score and slip this, right? So let's just make a line here where it's touching, where this tail is touching the outer bowl. Make sure that it looks the way you want it to down here. So you can play with it a little bit. You might lose a little bit of texture down there, but so what? You're going to be putting a coil there too, so. But you know, getting it a nice pleasant shape would be good. And it's good that we rolled it to a little bit thicker than a quarter, because then you can push it down to make it flat. Okay, let me move you again. Oh boy, let's see here. Is that right? I think so. So you can push it to make it a little bit flat because you have a little bit of thickness there to play with. Okay, so I haven't scored and slipped this yet, so I'm just going to make it so that shape at the bottom is pleasant. Okay, it might not be round, it might be oval, that's okay. Okay, so now we're going to just slip this, score it, sorry. And you don't need to make sure it's completely scored right to the edge and slipped right to the edge, because we're going to play with it a bit. Okay, this moved on me. Get that sponge down there. Let's get the slip. And my brush, which is a crappy brush. And you just want to glue it together so that you don't worry about it falling down. There we go. Then you can play with it then, because that tail won't fall down, because that's what kept happening to me. Good. Yeah, looks good. And again, because you have the thickness, you can push out a little bit and push out here just to get a pleasant shape down here. Good. Now let me assess this again. Yeah, that looks good. Let's put that sponge in there. And take your finger and compress a little bit sometimes, and just make sure you're keeping your rim nice and the way you want it. Hey, if you want to roughly rim though, go ahead. I mean, my rims are never perfect, that's for sure, on this. Later, when it's leather dry, bone hard, whatever, or bone dry, you'll use your sponge and you can fix a lot of mistakes that way too, or a lot of things you want to change. Okay, so now that that's stuck there, assess it again, make sure that it's going the way you want. Yeah. Now here I noticed too that because of the way that I cut it, you get a little bit of a, can you see that? Maybe this is better. Yeah, a little bit of a bump here. Yeah, just take your needle tool, smooth it out. It's okay, right? If you want, just very gently roll it out again. Just gives it a more pleasant shape, I guess. So there. Okay, so now we're gonna just put it aside, but we're gonna keep watching it. And then after it sets up just a bit, we're going to put our coils in. Okay, so I have just been watching this, and it's still nice and pliable. See that? I noticed that sometimes it seems to be falling back, so then just bring it forward, push your sponges down there a little bit more, but making sure that this wall is not bulging in or out, just playing with it. So what we're going to do is add the coils. Now normally I wouldn't care the size of my coil, but because now I have texture on here, I do care. I want my coils to be really, really thin. So let's put that there. I've never made one of these, so as I said, so you would think that's thin, but I'm looking to go thinner than that. I'm talking thin. Doesn't have to be continuous, but nice if it is. I'm running out of board though. So I might just cut it off there. I'm thinking I won't put one right here. I will just use my tool in there. What I want is one down in there for sure. Yeah, I think that'll do. Let's just take that off. I'm going to put it in a piece of plastic over here. And all I'm going to do is use slip. I'm not going to score or anything like that. I am just going to slip it right in there. This is already mushed down. Okay. It's really not that necessary to do it here either. So we'll play with that differently. But let's put this down in there. There we go. The real important part is on the other side, underneath. And there's also a real critical part on the underneath that you need to do. Okay, let's just smooth that out a bit. So it doesn't matter if you're losing texture down here. So what? If it really bothers you, get a little stamp. And just stamp something in there. You know, a little leaf stamp or something like that. Okay. So I'm thinking that I'll just use a little tool now to smooth that out. What's the best tool? I have a few different ones, so let's see what's going to work for me. Something with a roundy edge or whatever, and I don't want it to poke in or anything. There we go. That's something that you're probably going to be able to really do the finessing on the end when you're out doing your sponge work. But this is going to seal that right now. Unless you were going to put a stamp in there, then you don't want to, which I might do. Okay, I don't know. Can you see that? Let's see if we can see what I did. Yeah. Yeah? Oh, there we go. Something like that. Okay, so what I think I'm going to do then is maybe take a little sponge and gently smooth that out. Looks good. And once it's dry, maybe I'll put a little stamp in there. Okay, so like I said, the critical part is getting it down in there. Okay, So we're going to put some slip there, and I don't want to obscure my texture too much. So I'm just going to put a little slip down there. I might even roll this out a little bit more, get it even thinner. Like that. And put it in the crease. See? Yeah, good. Now, I'm going to use my tool. Oops. I don't know if you can really see that, but it's a little bit hard for me to hold it up. Here we go. So that's nice. I mean, you lose a little bit of texture, but not much. And then when it comes, you just have to futz around with it in there. Because this is too wide now. Let's see. Yeah, that works. So just get all your tools out and see which one is going to work for you, okay? Now, I think here you can just use a sculpting tool in there, and I'll show you what I mean. You know, these things. And just close up that area there. Because you have it closed in here already, especially if you start to, you know, use it. I mean, I already put my fingers there and coiled it there, so it's sealed up, so you're good. Okay, you know what I'm going to do? I am just going to take this phone off the stand. Okay, so that is where I put the coil down there. And the coil on the outside went to about here, which is fine because all of this on the inside I sealed, okay? Okay, so this is my little cheese grater. If you have a sure form, then you can use that, but I don't have one, so I always use this little cheese grater. Sorry about the voiceover, but it just seems every time somebody's got to come in and make noise while I'm trying to film. So I had to turn the volume off and just voice over this one. So I'm just taking off all the little lumps and bumps from the top part of this chip and dip bowl. Later on, when I take it out, I'll also be doing the edges of the lower part of the bowl as well. And here, when I rub my finger on the edge of the bowl, that is to keep the edges compressed. And that's pretty important because as it dries, you know, you don't want it to crack. So every time you go back to it, compress those edges. Okay, so now you're going to put plastic over it, but just loosely because you still want it to dry as it sits there. Okay, I've taken the plastic off and I'm just going to show you. See, it's about this stage right now. And I've taken the sponges out. It can stand on its own, but I'm going to leave it in here a little while longer just to make sure it's good and set up. This is probably drier than this right now. So I'll let it set up a little bit more and then I can take it out of here. I've used a brush like this just to get in the bottom here where I put that coil and smooth it out a bit. And just a couple little places like here maybe. There we go. There. Okay, so I'm just going to leave that for a little bit again. Okay, so what I have here is a wear board and a piece of paper. The paper on the wear board is going to allow the piece to move as it shrinks. Okay, so we're going to very gently pick this up. So you can see it's still pliable a little bit, but it's holding its shape. Just want to make sure we compress here. Now, if you see back here, this is where you want to reinforce. And I have done already a little bit. You just put some clay here because that is where it's going to crack, right in here. So let me grab a little bit of clay. Okay, so just pick it up a little bit here and just smush that in there and smooth it out. Especially right here. Okay, so just build it up a little bit. Doesn't take much, but whoa, does it make a difference. Okay, and then let's just pull this up like this and there. When it stiffens up a little bit more, then you can pick it up and work with it. But just, you know, with your fingers, feel that it's smooth. And I can tell that's reinforced now. That's going to be no problem. All right. And if you want, like we were doing earlier with this, I just use a cheese grater. You might have those Sureform things, but let's even that out a bit. Oops. Just a little bit. I mean, it's hand-built. It's going to have its inconsistencies for sure, but these are just taking off the real blatant ones. Good. Nice. Yeah, just use not too much water, just a little bit, just enough so that you can burnish the end, compress the edge like that, the rim. That's what I'm trying to say, the rim. With your finger. There we go. Okay, so here we go, and we're gonna just cover that again. It's on paper, so if it moves, it won't crack. It shouldn't anyway. But if you left it here like this, your wear board would suck moisture from the bottom, and this would be drying because it's up high, drying a lot slower than this. So you need to cover this, and you just need to cover it for probably a few days until it all stiffens up, okay? And go back and look at it every once in a while. So, well, congratulations, we got this far. First textured swirl ball, nice. Okay, where did I put my plastic? Right here. There we go. Get that in a couple days. Okay, so if you have any questions, just leave it in the comments. You can always go to my website, audreylynnstudiios.com, and leave me a message there if you like, but you can leave it down in the comments as well. I will have the pattern on there that I use, and you know, all I could do was really take a photo of it standing right above it, as square on as I could get it, and put that template up for you. So hopefully it all works out. If you have any suggestions how I could do that easier, just let me know. Okay, so like and subscribe, please, if you like what you see, and yeah, enjoy. Peace out.